Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. We will first recapitulate, right? Then I would show you one more video today. That is from National Geographical Channel. And then we will conclude the poem, right? Okay. So let us recapitulate the poem when I ask you questions. All right? Fine? Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
So this is a story poem, right? What is a story poem called?
A legend of Northland.
A legend. It is called a legend. A story is called legend. Anmol, I said, what is a story poem called? You remember right in the beginning, I told you ballad, right? It is called a story poem, or a narrative poem is called a ballad. So a legend of the Northland is a ballad, right? What is different in Northland from where you live?
Ma'am, Northland is extreme cold weather,
Right.
and in India, and where we live, there is a weather. The moderate means 6 months summer and 6 months winter.
Okay.
And in the Northland, there is extreme cold, only winters throughout the year.
Very good. And don't forget to mention, days are very short, but nights are very long, right? Nights are longer than the days throughout the year, in particular in winters, right? How do the people in Northland feel uncomfortable in winter? They feel uncomfortable. They find it very boring. What does it define boring?
Ma'am, because the nights are long and there is enough time to sleep, but they are not satisfied with,
Right.
and
As they cannot sleep for so long, right? So they feel uncomfortable in winter because the nights are too long and they cannot sleep for so long, right? What is their main transport they use in the Northland?
sledge.
They use sledges, right? In the winter when the snow is falling, right? What do they do? When the snow is falling, who pulls the sledges?
Reindeers.
Reindeers. What do they do to the reindeers when it snows in Northland?
Ma'am, can you repeat?
I said when it snows in Northland, what do these people do to the reindeers?
Ma'am, they tied with their reindeers with sledges and sit and migrate.
No, that's okay. That's okay. When it snows, they just tie their reindeers to their sledges. Okay? And the poet has described the children. The children have been compared. What have the children been compared with?
Bear cubs.
Bear's cubs.
Because they wear furry clothes like a bear cub have.
Right. Very good. Right. So the children have been compared with the bear's cubs because they wear furry clothes. Right. Okay. Then the poet says that the people there, they tell their children a strange story, and he believes that it is not true. The poet also agrees that the story is not true. Yet he wants to tell you people the story. Why does he want to tell you the story when he knows it is not true?
Ma'am, because they give some moral to us. We don't want to greedy.
Right, very good, right? The poet still wants to tell you the story because the story carries a message, a moral lesson for you people. So the poet wants to share that message with you, right? Okay. Now, who are the main characters in this poem?
Saint Peter and an old lady.
The Saint Peter and the little old woman, right? Okay. Saint Peter, what did Saint Peter used to do?
Ma'am, they preach everyone.
Right? He would walk around, he would wander everywhere, he would travel everywhere to preach. What would he preach?
For peace and
He would preach the teachings of Jesus Christ, right? He would travel everywhere and he would preach the teachings of Jesus Christ, right? So once when he had been traveling, he had been walking around, he just passed by a cottage. Whose cottage?
ma'am, a hut with a sloping roofs.
A hut. I said, whose cottage? Whose cottage was this?
A old lady woman who's a
Right, this
baker.
was a little woman's cottage. Saint Peter found, or he noticed, what did he observe?
Ma'am, the door was open of the cottage.
Okay, okay.
And
And
there
what
was a woman who baked the cakes.
right. He found the woman baking cakes on the hearth, on the fire, right? And he also asked for, what did he ask for?
Forgive the cakes to him
Right.
because he was very faint and hungry.
Faint and hungry, right? Okay, so what it is, when he saw the woman making cakes and he noticed that the woman already had lot many cakes lying on the shelf. So he asked the woman to give him a single cake because he was very tired and hungry. Why do you think he was tired and hungry?
Ma'am, because the day is all done and he did not eat any food or a piece of
Why do you think
food.
he didn't eat and he
Ma'am,
was
because
hungry?
because he was on fast.
It was on fast. Okay, any other? You see what it is. He had been tired and hungry because he had been traveling around to preach Jesus' teachings. He did not get food anywhere to eat, right? So that made him tired also. That's why he wanted to eat. All right? Okay. Did the little woman give him the cake?
Ma'am, no.
What did she do?
She thought that the bigger one she didn't to give them, and she make a smaller cake. But when the cake was baked, the cake becomes or seen a very large.
Right, very right, very good answer, right? So when he asked for the cake, the lady did not give him the cake because all the cakes that she had, they were large ones, they were big ones. She wanted to make a small cake for Saint Peter. Every time she would make a small cake, when the cake was ready, she would turn it over and she would find that the cake has grown large. So the woman had got agitated, but her this very behavior, right? What she did, then she was not satisfied with this. Then she made the dough again. And she took a small portion of dough and she flattened it and made a very thin cake, hoping that this would turn out to be a small cake. But no, it didn't happen. She herself was surprised that she was making small cakes and every time she makes it becomes large. And when she eats, it becomes small. The cake's size remains the same, but it is the greed of the woman that makes her think when she is eating, it is too small. And when she has to share it with someone, then it becomes too big. Oh, why should I give such a big cake to others? So the woman was greedy. She was selfish. She was not sharing, right? What was the impact of her this attitude?
Ma'am, the Saint Peter became the lady as a woodpecker because uh, he becomes very angry to her.
Right? Yes. So Saint Peter, this attitude and this behavior, this selfishness of the little woman made the saint very angry. What did he do?
He makes the old lady as a woodpecker to find her food to make her nest own.
Okay, so what is this? He cursed the little woman. All right, he cursed the little woman. Cursed. First, he poured out his anger and disappointment on the woman, telling her that she was very selfish. She was very selfish. The one, as a human being, had been enjoying the whole food and shelter and warmth by herself. She was not sharing. Since she was not sharing, she does not deserve to be called a human. In this stanza, he said, "You are far too selfish to dwell in a human form." He says, "You are such a selfish woman that you don't deserve to be called a human." Why? Because to have both food and shelter and fire to keep you warm. Meaning that you have been blessed with food and shelter and warmth, but you are not sharing with others. You are greedy, you are selfish. So you cannot be a human, because God has sent the humans on the earth so that they share with each other. So this very thought makes the saint angry, and then what he does, he curses her. We will continue from here, okay? Because I want to take it up again. Now you shall build as the birds do, and shall get your scanty food. What it means? He means to say, just as you have made me starve, I am hungry, you didn't give me food. So now you would also make your nest. You would also become that very bird, and you will not get food anywhere. And you will have to struggle to get food. How she would get food? By boring and boring and boring. You would have to dig and dig and dig the wood, the dry wood, the hard and dry wood. You will keep digging to get the food. Otherwise, you will stay hungry. This is a curse. Curse समझ में आता है अनमोल आपको? Curse क्या होता है?
Sharp.
Right, right. वो उसको सेंट पीटर ने उसको एक अभिशाप दिया. अभिशाप दिया कि तुम एक बर्ड बन जाओगे और तुम्हें भी भूख के मारे तरसना पड़ेगा और खूब मेहनत करनी पड़ेगी जब अपनी चोंच से. इट्स वेरी पेनफुल, यू नो, इट्स वेरी पेनफुल फॉर द woodpecker. With its beak, she keeps digging the bark of the wood to get some food. Actually, the reason is the woodpecker, she is boring the wood of the tree. First thing is to get the food, right? Food in what form? The bark, right? The bark of the wood. And secondly, there is sap inside, that juice inside. And thirdly, sometimes they get insects also, right? But you know that what it is? Woodpecker not only digs the hole, it digs a hole for the food, but later on it uses that very hole to store its food if it carries from somewhere. In fact, the hole becomes its nest, and the woodpecker also lays her eggs over there, looks after her offsprings over there in the hole. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Then up she went through the chimney, never speaking a word. Oh, what happened? The little woman, she went through the chimney. How can the little woman go through the chimney? Chimney, do you know? Chimney
Yes,
above the house, right? How can she go through the chimney? Very silently, without speaking a word, she moved through the chimney. How? Because she was turned into a bird. Instantly, the little woman, she turned into a woodpecker and she went through the chimney and out of the top flew a woodpecker because she was changed to a bird. And soon after that, there could be seen a woodpecker flying above the house, above the cottage. Who was that woodpecker? The little woman who was changed into a bird because St. Peter's curse had worked on her, because he had cursed her that she would become a bird. Right? Now, as a bird, what happened? She had a scarlet cap on her head, and that was left the same. But all the rest of her clothes were burned black as a coal in the flame. The little woman, she was wearing a scarlet, meaning red, a red cap on her head. When the saint came, she was wearing a red cap. So when this little woman was changed into a bird, right, this red cap remained there on her head. Do you see this scarlet red crest of the bird? Right? It is that cap. This is the legend. And the rest of the clothes she was wearing, they all got burned, just like black coal. And that's why you look at the picture of the woodpecker, that her head, on the head, she's wearing a crest that is red because of that cap, which did not burn, right? And rest of the body of the woodpecker is black, like coal. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
And every country schoolboy has seen her in the wood, where she lives in the trees till this very day, boring and boring for food. Every country schoolboy in the village, every schoolboy would see in the wood the woodpecker living in the trees. Every day they would find her boring and boring, digging and digging the bark of the tree, hoping that she would get some food to eat. She had to dig. If she is not able to dig, then what will happen? She will not get her food. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now I'll show you one video.
You probably recognize the sound of woodpeckers busy at work. But have you ever wondered why they're pecking away and why they do it
Yes,
so
ma'am.
endlessly? Well, at least in the case of acorn woodpeckers in Carmel Valley, California, they're creating storage units.
Now do you see?
Thousands and thousands and thousands of storage units.
These are the homes, these are the eggs.
See, these acorn woodpeckers are engaging in a behavior called hoarding.
Carrying the food now.
They're collecting far more food than they need for the winter by pecking holes into dead trees and stuffing them with their favorite food. Fat-filled acorns. This oak tree has been transformed into a storage site, or granary tree, for one extended family of acorn woodpeckers. This particular granary tree has been pecked with over 10,000 holes. Can you imagine how much work it takes to create all these holes? Then imagine how much work it takes to fill them. A woodpecker might gather over 100 acorns a day, and can only gather one acorn in each trip. A woodpecker can fly over 12 miles in one day gathering acorns. Then the acorn has to be pounded snugly into the hole. If the fit isn't just right, falling acorns aren't the only problem these woodpeckers face. They have to be wary of birds of prey, who pick off 1 in every 5 of the birds out here. Less deadly and more annoying are animals that raid their hard-won food supply. Ground squirrels love to let woodpeckers do all the work of gathering acorns, just so they can sneak in and steal them. Naturally, the woodpeckers don't think too kindly of this. When they find out, look out. When their food supply is threatened like this, you might say the woodpeckers go, well, nuts. One last threat, large portions of the acorn supply can rot. So even though hoarding may have negative connotations to humans, overstocking is necessary so the woodpeckers don't have to migrate to different food supplies. And all the acorns that get dropped in the hoarding process help regenerate all these oak trees, keeping the acorn woodpecker's circle of life intact.
Okay, so what it is, I had deliberately shown you this video in order to make you understand that how St. Peter's curse had acted upon the woodpecker. You see that how woodpecker is struggling. It's not simply that she is making hole. It is not simply that she is boring the bark of the tree. No. You see that how she goes, she carries her food and she stores it in that hole. But the moment she is away from the tree or from her nest, what happens? The other animals and the birds, they grab that opportunity, they take away the food. Just as, for example, you must have seen the squirrel doing it. Isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? And sometimes the fruit had fallen down. If the fruit has fallen down, it would be difficult for her to carry this because there would be so many other birds and animals looking for the same. In fact, many a time she lays her eggs in those holes, the eggs also fall down. So the life has really become difficult for her. Don't you think that the little woman has been punished for her follies, for her mistake?
Ma'am, yes, ma'am.
Yes, you want to say something?
Ma'am, she was punished, right?
Right. She had been punished. Right. Yes, fine. That she didn't know he was Saint Peter. If she knew he was Saint Peter, perhaps she would not have done it. Perhaps she would have given not one, but 2 cakes also, more than 2 cakes also. In fact, she would have been very happy. She would have felt honored. But it means that she would be kind. It means that she would offer her services to a saint, but not to a common person who is in need. Isn't it? That means it was there in her behavior that she was not helpful to others. She would not cater to the needs of the people. So this is the lesson the poet has tried to teach us through this poem, that we, the human beings, we are living as a society, we are living as a community where we all have to help each other. We should not be greedy, we should not be selfish. A man's life is worthless if man is not able to help others. आपने कई बार सुना होगा कि घर के बड़े बुजुर्ग भी हमें ये बात बोलते हैं ना कि वो जिंदगी क्या जो किसी के काम नहीं आई. ये वाला डायलॉग सुना है कभी बड़े लोग कहते हैं ना कि वो भी कोई जिंदगी है जो किसी के काम नहीं आई. Right? So it means that we are not worth humans. We will not be considered humans if we are unable to help others. So we should not be greedy, we should not be selfish, but we should always help others in need. So this was the lesson of the story poem. I hope each and everything is clear.
Yes.
Is there any line, any stanza which is not clear to you?
No, ma'am, every line is clear to me.
Okay, fine. So now let us discuss the questions. Then we will discuss poetic devices. Okay. Yes. The poem has already been comprehended by discussing short questions. Now, just as I asked you short questions, the same kind of short questions you can get in the exams also, right? The short questions that I asked, usually they are given in reference to context, right? Okay. So here is the question, which country or countries do you think the Northland refers to?
Greenland, Iceland.
Yes, these are the countries, Greenland, Iceland. The countries, you will also add Anmol, that the Northland refers to Iceland and Greenland, the countries which have very short days but very long nights in winters. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. What did Saint Peter ask the old lady for?
For giving the food.
For a cake, for
For
a
a
single
cake.
cake, right? Saint Peter, and do remember, you will give complete answer. When you write, then also you have to write complete answer. Okay? Saint Peter asked the old lady for a single cake to be given to him. Right? What was the lady's reaction?
Ladies thought that I wouldn't give to a bigger one of cake. Then she will go and make a small cake to the Saint Peter.
Right. The question here is Anmol. Now, just try to understand how to answer the questions. Okay, your answer is right, but presentation of the answer has to be according to the question. All right. Now, the question was, what was the lady's reaction? Saint Peter asked for the single cake, and what was the lady's reaction? You would say, when he asked for the single cake, the lady was reluctant to give the cake because she found all of those cakes very large, right? So she thought to make a small one to give away to the saint. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. How did Saint Peter punish her?
The Saint Peter punished the old ladies as he made the lady as a woodpecker.
Yes. So first you would say, how did he punish her? First you would say, he punished her by cursing her. Or simply you would say that Saint Peter had cursed the little woman that she would become a woodpecker and struggle to get her food. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So the answer is very clear, right? You know that what happens जब आप इतना clear answer दोगे ना बेटा, तो उसमें अगर आपकी कोई एक आध grammatical mistake भी है ना, तो वैसे तो हम grammatical mistakes के marks काटते हैं, लेकिन अगर answer complete है, बिल्कुल clear है, और उसमें एक तो कोई grammatical mistakes भी है, तो कई बार वो mistakes overlook हो जाती है. टीचर्स सोचते हैं कि नहीं, अब इसके लिए पेनल्टी बच्चे को नहीं देना है. She has given complete answer. She knows everything. तो यूजुअली शॉर्ट क्वेश्चंस नहीं आते हैं ऐसे क्वेश्चंस, राइट? तो वहां फिर कोई स्कोप टीचर के पास नहीं होता है आपके मार्क्स काटने का. ठीक है? यस. हाउ डज द वुडपेकर गेट हर फूड?
The woodpecker get her food by digging the woods
Right.
and
Yes.
and find her food by boring day.
Right. Very correct. That's all. This is the answer you have to give. Right? The woodpecker gets her food by boring the hard and dry wood. That's all. Okay? Do you think that the old lady would have been so ungenerous if she had known who Saint Peter really was?
And what is the meaning of ungenerous?
Ungenerous meaning, ungenerous is the one who is ready to give away everything to others, right? And ungenerous is selfish, the one who doesn't want to give away his or her things to others. So if the old lady, do you think she would have been generous? Do you think that the old lady, she would have been ungenerous when she knew that he was Saint Peter? Yes. Do you think she would have been ungenerous? Meaning, do you think that she would have been
selfish?
She would have been selfish if she knew he was Saint Peter?
I think because, ma'am,
No, Anmol, here. You just give answer first in yes or no.
ma'am, no.
Right? Absolutely. No. The lady would not have been so ungenerous if she knew who Saint Peter was. What would she have done?
She wouldn't give the bigger
No,
one
no,
of
no.
cake
No,
to.
no, 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 Anmol. If she knew he was Saint Peter, then what would she have done?
She gave the bigger one cake to the Saint Peter if she
Right,
know the who was the Saint Peter really.
right. She would not have got a second thought. She would not have thought of making another cake. But whatever the cakes were lying with her, she would have given one or more cakes to Saint Peter. Is that clear? Right? Now, let me sum up your answer again. Fine. The first part of the question, you will answer no. The lady would not have been so ungenerous if she had known who Saint Peter really was. The second part is she would have not thought of making a small cake, but definitely she would have given any one or more than one cakes to Saint Peter. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is this a true story?
No, ma'am. Ma'am,
No.
because the poet of the stories thought that this is not the true story, but the moral of the story is right.
Right. Okay. So here what it is, we would say that no, the story is not true. It is fictional or it is imagination. Right? And how it is important, how do we know it's not true? Because here at one place, the poet says, in the third stanza, I don't believe it's true, right? The poet thinks that it is not true, it is imaginable, right? But why is it important? Because it carries a lesson, it carries a message. I hope it is clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's go to the next question then. Yes. What is a legend?
Legend is a tradition of a folk stories and songs.
Right, right. A legend is a tradition, an ancient tradition, right? That depicts the folk culture or the folk tale. Why is this poem called a legend?
This is also a folk tale.
Right, this is also a folk tale. Do remember here, I missed one point. You would say legend is an old culture, right? Or the folk culture or the folk story, which is passed on from generations to generations, right? This poem is also called a legend because this is also an ancient folk tale which has been told to many generations in the past and present. I hope it is clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then here is the question, write the story of a legend of the Northland in about 10 sentences. Now, when you write the story, you are not supposed to describe the first two, three stanzas. Okay. You will just start from where once Saint Peter was traveling around to preach Jesus' teachings. He was very tired and hungry. Soon he found a cottage where a little woman was baking cake. He asked the woman to give her one cake, but the woman was reluctant. She thought it would be too big. I would not give big cake to him. So she started making small cake. Every time she would make a small cake, it would turn out to be big. And Saint was very tired and hungry. He lost his cool, or he lost his patience. He became angry with the woman, telling her that she was selfish and greedy. And he cursed her. Because of his curse, the little woman immediately turned into a woodpecker, packing the wood in the forest to get food. That's all, right? And when you write the story in towards the end, give a moral, do give the lesson also, right? The moral of the story is we should not be greedy and selfish, but we should be sharing, right? When we share with others, it gives us a lot of satisfaction. When we are satisfied, we are at peace. So that's how there would be peace on the earth if we share. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Just one example, I tell you that during pandemic, during pandemic, when the people had been thronging to the chemist shops, to the hospitals, they were not getting medicines. They were not getting equipments like steamer for steaming. They were not getting steamers. They were not getting oximeters. Even thermometers were also short in supply. So you know that what happened in the locality, the people, they had made their WhatsApp group and they started circulating the messages that if you don't need, please share. And that's how the people had been sharing. If one has got oximeter, one does not need, they would just throw this message in the group that this oximeter is available. So don't purchase. Because then their prices had also steeped very high. It was so difficult for the people, right? And they were not available also. So this is the human. This is humanity. That how we are catering to each other's needs, we are sharing with each other, and we are being social. This is what the humans are. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, this is a living example I shared with you, Anmol. Now, one thing I tell you, that in English, whenever you have to write general things, do add your personal living experiences, what you have seen around. One example I gave you, you also might be knowing many such examples, isn't it? When you write those examples, definitely the examiner gives you extra marks for that, because that exhibits that you understand it very well. Is that clear? Okay. Now the next two questions we are not discussing here, but we will discuss otherwise. Now let us discuss the poetic devices, right? If you please see the first stanza, first of all. In the first stanza, which poetic device has been used?
Repetition.
Repetition. Where is the repetition?
Away, away.
Away, away. Good, very good. Right? Is there any other poetic device in these four lines?
I think no.
No, there is alliteration. That, they, them. The same sound is there, the, th, 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 right? But through is not the part of this group. It is the, but this is the. You see that the sound differs, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So there are two poetic devices. Away, away, you should note it down. Away, away is the repetition. Then there is alliteration as that, they, them, right? Okay, what is the rhyming scheme here? Are the words rhyming?
No.
The words are not rhyming. So what is the rhyme scheme? if you just notice the second line and the fourth line. Few through. They are rhyming, right, Anmol? Therefore,
yes, ma'am.
the rhyming scheme is A, B, right? C, and what is this? B,
B.
right? It is A, B, C, B. All right? Okay, let's go to the next. Yes, in the next stanza, which poetic device do you find? Yes,
Ma'am, in Funny Furry, there is a poetic device.
yes, that is there. Which poetic device? We just discussed in the first stanza.
Ma'am, similar they are.
No, and more. That, they, them, which poetic device is there? Isn't it alliteration? Right? So
Yes,
here
ma'am.
also it's alliteration. Because F, funny, furry, it's the same sound. Right? Alliteration is there. Another example also in the same stanza. Find out. In another line also you will find alliteration. See the second line. To the sledges when it snows. Sledge, snow. All right?
Yes, ma'am.
So here in the second line and in the fourth line, there is alliteration. Which poetic device is there in the third line? Like bear's cubs. What is that? Children have been compared with the cubs of bear. Right? So which poetic device is this? This is simile. Is that clear?
Okay, ma'am.
When we say that the children look like bear's cubs, like, so it becomes simile. If I say the children look bear's cubs, or the children bear's cubs, or it was the bear's cubs wearing funny furry clothes, then it would be metaphor. They are being compared with the bears, but like or as word is not used. I hope it is clear.
Yes,
Right?
ma'am.
Okay. Now identify the rhyming scheme here.
A, B.
Mhm.
Snow clothes are rhyme.
Snows and clothes. Yeah, somewhere it says, but I don't think it is rhyming. Snows, clothes.
Cubs.
It should be A, B, C, D. Right? It should be A, B, C, D. Snows, clothes. Okay. Clothes. Oh, yes, you're right. A, B, C, D. It's the same. Right?
Okay, ma'am.
Yes. Come to the next. Now, which poetic device do you find here? अपनी बुक में अंडरलाइन करते जाओ साथ साथ और लिखते भी जाओ कौन सी पोएटिक डिवाइस है ठीक है yes they tell them a curious story I don't believe it's true and yet you may learn a lesson if I tell the tale to you. Yes and more, we have already done this.
Metaphor.
No, in the first line you see very carefully Observe carefully and then you go back to the previous stanzas and just try to identify what have you done there that you find here also. ध्यान से देखो उसको.
Alliteration, because
Alliteration.
they tell them.
Yes, yes, they, them. All right. Yes. Now, alliteration, there are more the examples in the same stanza.
Telltale.
Right. Very correct. There is another example.
Yet and
Yet you. Right. In the same line, there is another example.
learn lesson.
Right, correct, very correct. You see that in one stanza, there are 4 examples of alliteration, right? In the first line, they tell them. In the third line, yet you learn a lesson. In the fourth line, I tell the tale. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Now, rhyming scheme.
A, B, C, B.
A, B, C, B. Very correct. Wonderful. Good. Now the next, in the next stanza. This is good now that you are identifying yourself. जब आप अपने आप ढूंढेंगे, अपने आप बताएंगे, तो आपके माइंड में permanently register होगा. Right? So whenever you get in the test, you will be able to recall that what you thought at that time. Yes, beta, chalo. In the next stanza.
Ma'am, symbolism, because the Saint Peter is refers or as a Jesus.
No, there is no symbolism. Saint Peter is not as Jesus. He was the follower of Jesus. So we cannot equate him with Jesus. Right? There is no symbolism, beta. There is no symbolism in the poem. Yes. Do you find any poetic device in these 4 lines? There is no poetic device. Right?
Okay, ma'am.
Yes. But you see the rhyming scheme?
A, B, C, B.
Good. A, B, C, B. Right? Okay, let's come to the next stanza. In the next stanza, try to identify. Yes.
Ma'am, I can't identify.
Yes, you will not be able to identify because there is no poetic device in this stanza also, right? Okay, just identify the rhyming scheme.
A, B, C, B.
Correct, very correct. Okay, yes. Now the next stanza.
Alliteration in first sentence.
Give example.
Faint, fasting.
Very good, very good. You see that now you are understanding. So you took no time, right? This is what it should be. Yes, carry on. Any other example?
Her and her in third line. Asked her from. He asked her from her store.
Okay, he and her, right? Okay, the second line.
Alliteration, day and done.
Right. So there are three examples of alliteration. In the first line, faint and fasting. In the second line, day done. In the third line, he, her. All right? Yeah? Okay. Now a rhyming scheme.
A, B, C, B.
Correct. Very correct. Okay? All right. Now let's go to the next. So in the next stanza, do you find any poetic device here?
Ma'am, I think no.
Right. Okay. A rhyming scheme.
A, B, C, B.
A, B, C, B. Correct. It's the same rhyming scheme going throughout the poem. Yet we have to see, हमें कभी कभी फिर भी हमें एक एक स्टैंजा को अलग से देखना होता है, right? ताकि कहीं कोई कुछ पोएट ने पैटर्न चेंज नहीं किया हो. Okay, let's go to the next.
Alliteration in first sentence, therefore another.
Therefore, another. No, this is not alliteration. This is T first letter and there A first letter. This can't be alliteration, beta. Alliteration is the repetition of the first syllable. That is the first letter of the word in the same context with the same sound. Got it?
Okay, ma'am.
Yes. For example, faint, fasting. First sound is there. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Funny, furry. It's the same sound is there. Yes. So in the first line, there is no poetic device. In the second, do you find?
No.
Ah, it's there. Try to see. Still smaller. Right? And
Okay.
still a smaller one. So still smaller. Okay? In the third,
No.
no. In the last line,
No.
no, it's not there. Now the rhyming scheme.
A, B, C, D.
Right. Okay. Let's go to the next. Yes. In the next one. In the first line, do you find any poetic device?
She scrapped because the consonant of the starting word is SS.
What do you say?
She and scrap.
She scrapped, but the sound is not same, no? Anmol?
Yes, ma'am.
Here the sound is sure and here the sound is sir. So this is not right. Any other example in the same line? Took a tiny. What is this? Alliteration. Right?
Took and tiny. But ma'am, that took is oo sound and tiny.
T sound is ter. Took,
Okay.
tiny. But there it was sure, sir. Got it?
Okay, ma'am.
Yes, yes. Now in the next line, do you find the poetic device?
Ma'am, rolled and rolled is anaphora.
Rolled and rolled, yes. No, not anaphora. You will not call it an anaphora, but you will call it repetition. Okay? Yes. In the third line, do you find any? In the third and fourth?
No, in third and fourth, there's no
Yes.
repetition.
So the rhyming scheme is
A, A, B, C, B.
right. Come to the next. In the first line, is there any?
Seem small.
Seem small. Very good. In the second line,
No,
no. In the third,
no.
no. In the last,
She, shelf.
very good. She shall. Correct. So you see that now you are able to identify. Okay, quick. The rhyming scheme.
A, B, C, G.
Good. Come to the next. The first line.
Good and grew are alliteration.
Good and grew. Right? Good and grew. Girl's sound is there. Okay? Yes. The second one.
No,
No. In the third.
no,
No. In the next. It's not there.
no.
Okay. Yes. So there is only one example. Fine. Now the rhyming scheme is
A, B, C, B.
C, B. Right? Okay. In the next stanza, the first line. The first line.
No, ma'am. Sad
There is
and
no.
selfish. Means
No, no, it's not correct. In the second line.
no,
No. In the third.
no,
In the fourth.
no.
No. So now the rhyming scheme.
A, B, C, B.
Correct. Okay. Now let's go to the next. Yes. In the next stanza, the first line.
Build and birds.
Build and birds. That is alliteration. Okay. You shall build as the birds do. Here are two poetic devices, Anmol. One is alliteration, build and birds. The other is simile. Right? Because he says, now you will build the nest as the birds do, like the birds. He is comparing her with the birds. Okay. So just
Okay,
as the
ma'am.
birds do it, you will also do the same. So here it is simile as well as alliteration. Okay. Yes. In the next line.
No.
No. In the next. Boring and boring and boring is.
Alliteration.
Boring and boring and boring is.
Alliteration.
No. Beta, alliteration is build birds. Alliteration is when first letter is repeated. And boring is repetition. That is only repetition. जिसमें एक
Okay,
word ही
ma'am.
repeat होता है ना, उसको repetition कहते हैं. Repetition is a poetic device. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Yes. In the last line.
Day and dry.
Day and dry. Very good. Wonderful. Now the rhyming scheme.
A, B, C, B.
Very good. Now come to the next. The first line.
No.
No. In the second line.
No.
No. In the third.
No.
No. In the last.
No.
No. There is no poetic device. So The rhyming scheme is A,
A,
B,
B, C, D.
B. Right? So the next two stanzas now. Let us see. Yes. Here, in the first line, she had a scarlet cap on her head. Do you find any poetic device here?
No.
Her head.
Alliteration, her and head.
Alliteration. Right, alliteration. In the second line,
That and the.
no, we can skip it, no problem. Okay, so there is nothing. In the third line, there is no poetic device.
Yes,
In the last line, please
black
look
as a
at
coal
this.
simile.
Very good. I'm so happy and more that you took no time in identifying the simile. Good. Black like coal. Right? So comparison. This is simile. Very good. Now the rhyming scheme.
A, B, B, C, D.
A, B, C, B. Right? The last stanza. The first line.
There is no poetic device in first
Right.
line.
Second line.
Has her.
Has her. Okay. In the third line.
No.
No. In the last.
Boring and boring.
Yes, boring and boring is what?
Repetition.
Repetition. Now you got it?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
It's repetition. Otherwise, if you remember, जो आपके शुरू के दो poems मैंने कराए थे, उनके videos, you revisit those videos and you will find that these poetic devices have been explained.
Yes,
All right.
ma'am.
हाँ, तो उनको revisit करके देखो, so you will understand the difference. All right. Now next week we will take up My Childhood by Abdul Kalam Azad. Right?
Okay, ma'am.
By Abdul Kalam. Fine. Okay.
Good evening,
Goodbye.
ma'am.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.